Oh, we're on page 130. Remember, we were having a discussion last time whether we follow the Shulchan Aruch who says, if you went to the bathroom, by the way, now it's again back to our spiritual side. You go to the bathroom, and you forgot to say Asher Yatzar, and you went to the bathroom again. Did you say Asher Yatzar? What's the question? Twice, very good. Or once? Maran says twice, like Tashlumin, very good. But most of the rabbis argue in the Acharonim. Most of them say, no. I don't know what to tell you. I'm a stickler for Maran. The best suggestion would be not to forget. Then you won't have the problem.
Can you identify for what the essence of the bracha is trying to come for? Like, in general, thinking of Hashem for letting us go to the bathroom. So, you go twice, go to the bathroom twice, and if you forgot the first time, saying the second time once, and that's but now that's thanking Hashem also for the first time. Well,
we're learning this halakha from, if I forgot one tefillah, and the next tefillah I say it twice. Right, by Amidah. So I would say 2 Shmoneh Esrei by Mincha if I forgot the one by Shachrit, or 2 by Arvit if I forgot Mincha. So, okay, well, I could just say in one of them that I have in mind for both. Seems to be that there need to be 2 separate tefillot. There need to be 2 separate Asher Yatzar. The rabbis who argue say like you. I don't know, why do you have to have 2 Asher Yatzar? It's not like tefillah. It's not like Shmoneh.
Right, it seems different.
It does seem different. So, listen, either way you go, you're right. Either you're like Maran and you're right, or you're like everyone else and you're right.
So, what is Maran's conclusion?
2.
Would it also depend on whether there was some other activity in between?
It seems that it was said. No.
It's not like
It does. He doesn't give a time limit.
Because you could say, in a sense, that you started something left and then finished as well.
Very good.
Because, it depends, of course, on human anatomy and each individual, but now let's say voiding water, there may be a little bit left and you go back. Why would you need 2 brachot then? Because you didn't complete the action.
So maybe you could see here on page 131 with me for a moment. Let's read the top. Shulchan Aruch.
I wasn't confused.
No, we didn't do this part. Let's ahead. I'm just thinking. I want to think to answer this question. En shi'ur lahashtin mayim. Okay, this is an interesting halakha. You know that by kiddush you have to drink a certain amount of wine. You know that when you eat bread or you eat food, you have to eat a certain amount to make the after blessing. You know that everything in the world there's an amount that you have to have in order to be obligated. How much do you have to go to the bathroom in order to make an Asher Yatzar afterwards?
You tell us a drop.
Oh, very good. You remember. So I'm thankful to Maran for writing this halakha, because if not, they'd be selling you all kinds of measuring cups at the Judaica stores, and people would be measuring the bathroom and how much they used and how much water there was in before and all kinds of. You never know where we would go with this. So I'm thankful to Maran for this. Very thankful. Ein shi'ur lahashtin mayim. There is no amount that a person must urinate in order to say an Asher Yatzar. Ki afilu letipa achat, because even for 1 drop, chayav levarich, you must make a blessing. What's the logic behind this halakha?
Well, bracha is all about thanking Hashem for us to go to the bathroom. So if you go to the bathroom just a little bit, you need to thank Hashem for that.
That's enough to thank Hashem for.
Also, it's called nikavim orifices, openings, and it opens, even when you drop it.
Oh, so you're saying the blessing is on the opening, so the fact that it opened is enough to make a bracha? Right. I mean, all that happened. Right. Maran says something interesting. Maran, the choice of words he uses, listen, and incorporates all these answers. She'im misatem hanekev milotzi tipahi, if that body part would have closed and not been able to let out even that 1 drop, haya kashelo would be very painful. V'chayav lahodot, and that is reason enough to give thanks. Meaning, if I was not able to even put out this drop, it would hurt me very much. It would be hard, it would be difficult, and therefore that's enough of a reason to go. So what I'm thinking on your question is, even that little bit, there's no really such thing as a continuation, because every drop itself is technically obligated in the bracha. That's what I'm thinking.
So, what if a person has to have sick? and it's very painful to you. Is he obligated to say that?
Very good. We're talking about us.
Well,
Yeah,
there
if someone
are,
has like a prostate problem.
yeah, prostate problem or a sexual
We're gonna answer this
transmitted
question
disease,
Tonight we're going to discuss it.
Even more extreme if they have like a bag,
yeah.
where it doesn't even leave the ureter, it comes out in a bag in the
Had an
vaginal.
operation.
Of course, there's no way to say a bracha because there's no voiding, it's involuntary, just the waste comes when it needs to into the bag.
This is for
You mean
normal time.
Yeah,
It's talking normal time.
We're
Right,
going to
right,
see
right.
this
Okay.
soon.
it's interesting.
Someone here had a question. Roll, you had a question? Okay, let's look inside. Page 130. Tet. Halakha Tet. See on the top of the page? Im nistapek. What if we're in doubt? We don't remember. Im berech asher etzar. If I made the blessing of
Sure, it's
asher etzar. This is an interesting question in general. If I forgot if I made a bracha or not, what do I do?
Do your job, do it alone.
Well, if there's doubt, we don't.
Don't do it.
Why not? In general, by brachot, why not?
So we don't say Hashem's
Vain.
name in vain.
Big Gemara was something broke a lot.
Oh, wait, one is because we're saying Hashem's name in vain. What's the Gemara about Tzedek Brachot? Okay, why? The question is why. Very good. Making a bracha is not biblical. It's rabbinic, and therefore, when you're in doubt as to any rabbinic thing, you don't do it again. That's the rule. You have to know this rule is rabbinic always. Except for, give me a bracha that's not rabbinic. Very good. Birkat Hamazon. The blessing after meals is biblical. V'achalta, v'sab'ata, u'v'rachta. There, the idea is that it's a biblical mitzvah. Even though the text may be composed by our Chachamim, but the idea of making the bracha, there you have to go back. The interesting question is, what about a lady? If she forgets, let's say, Ya'alev Yavo, or Atzeva Chalitin, or one of the things that she has to say in the Birkat Hamazon, does she go back? It's a big fight. It's a big argument. The reason is, why we would say she wouldn't go back? Why?
Because your woman are put for is non
Right, so a lady is exempt
By
from
time.
the time-bound mitzvot. This Ritzeh, this Ya'alev Yavo, her obligation to say them is not biblical, it's rabbinic. And therefore, if she forgets them, she still did the biblical Birkat Hamazon. We, whose obligation is to say those things, then we might have to go back. That's already a question. But by her, the logic would say that probably not. So here, Asher Etzar, biblical or rabbinic? Rabbinic, yeah. So get ready to give me the answer before we read it. Do you have to, if you're not sure, do you say it again?
No.
No, very good. Eno chozer, we don't go back and varich, we don't say it again. Shesafek berachot la'akel. Because when we are in doubt as to when to make the blessing, we don't make it. Now this is a real Jewish question. So we don't make a blessing when in doubt is because not only is it rabbinic to make the blessing, it's a biblical. What's a biblical prohibition about making a blessing? You might be saying
In vain.
Hashem's name in vain, right? You just said this. You might be saying Hashem's name in vain. So when in doubt as to violating a biblical mitzvah, do you violate the biblical mitzvah? No, it's a classic case of when in doubt you are strict. I once gave you a shiur a long time ago about a svek sveka. What if you have a double doubt?
You don't go back.
No, you're saying wrong. No, what?
Double.
A double doubt, meaning I have a doubt on one thing and another doubt, which means there are two reasons why I might need to say the bracha again.
Then you would.
Then some rabbis there say that svek sveka, a double doubt, then you must say the bracha. I'll give you an example for this. When I go to the store in October, and I know that much of the flour here is not yashan. It could be a biblical prohibition. It's a doubt. I don't know. Maybe it is yashan. I don't know. Who knows how long it's been here for? Maybe it's not. If I don't know, am I allowed to buy it? No, because it's a safek. It's a doubt as to whether it's yashan or not. Now here, if I would have a double doubt, I would have two reasons to doubt whether it's chadash.
That's what the box says.
That's very good. That's the Bach's whole answer. The Bach, like I said in my book, the whole question is whether yashan applies outside of the land of Israel. No, it's not really a question. It's a fake sveka. Because everyone says it does apply outside of Israel. Gemara, the Rambam, Shulchan Aruch, nobody argues. Only later people argue. But if I imagine this formula, I'm not sure whether or not it's new wheat. Could be it's old. If you know for sure it's new wheat, does it help you? No, nobody could eat that. I'm not sure if it's old wheat, and I'm also not sure if this mitzvah even applies outside of Israel. So it's a double doubt. Can I now eat the wheat? The flour? Yes. The answer is yes, you can. But it's not true. It's not a real sfek. So here, what if I have a double doubt? I'm going to create the double doubt for you right now. I'm not sure if I made the bracha. How many doubts is that? One. So should I violate Hashem's name, maybe, or not? No. But what if I went to the bathroom twice? And I forgot to say Asher Yatzar both times. And now I have a doubt as follows. Normally, let's say it's an hour after, or half an hour after my second time going to the bathroom. I didn't make it Asher Yatzar now, and I didn't make it 2 hours ago. So one doubt is whether or not I even make an Asher Yatzar because I might be saying Hashem's name in vain. But according to Maran, technically I could make Asher Yatzar twice. So maybe I can say Asher Yatzar once. At least for the second time I'm making an Asher Yatzar. Something like that. Can I do that? Can I not do that?
Depending on the time period. 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon.
So this within a reasonable amount of time. You're right, it's a good point, you're right. So says Rabbi, the video says, even if you go to the bathroom twice, and afterwards, you're not sure if you even made a blessing once. Even then you don't go back. And this is for two reasons the Chida says. Rabbi Chaim knows what the video is like. The two reasons is, one, not everybody agrees that a double doubt you violate a biblical mitzvah. Not everybody agrees. Especially not when it comes to brachot, which is Hashem's name in vain. And the second reason is that not everyone... That's the idea behind the rule. Most people don't follow Shulchan Aruch on this ruling of saying twice. And because that's not the minhag, so you can't use it in conjunction with a doubt, because it's not something we would ever do if it was on its own. So we don't make a double doubt out of something that we would never do on its own. So that's why Rabbi David Yosef comes to the conclusion that you don't make this bracha even once. So basically, you forgot to make the bracha Asher Yatzar, what's the halakha? You forgot to make the bracha of Asher Yatzar. What is the halakha? You don't make a bracha. Very good. That's the halakha.
And that's definitive.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, you could try to wiggle around it, but some rabbis say you would make the bracha, but here, almost everyone agrees you wouldn't make the bracha. Halakha Yud. This is an interesting question. What if a person... Hey, how are you? What if a person goes to the bathroom very often? Either because he has a certain disease, or he's always needs to go to the bathroom, either way to go to the bathroom, or he's taking some kind of medication which might cause diarrhea or freaking urination or something like that. So he knows, I'm going now, but I might need to go again in 5 minutes. I don't know. How many Asher Yatzars does he make?
Every 5 minutes.
What's the good question, right?
One drop, that's all you need.
Can you give us the last part?
What if he's sitting in the bathroom? You can't say it.
You can't sit in the bathroom, you can't say Asher Yatzar. As long as you go out. If the bracha is on each
If he
individual.
knows he's going to keep going every 5 minutes.
If the bracha is on each
What happens if a person goes to the bathroom? He's in the middle of going to the bathroom. Imagine how this works. He's in the middle of going to the bathroom. And he's, oh, I forgot the toilet paper outside. So he somehow manages to stop himself, runs outside, gets the toilet paper, comes back in. Does he make Hashem Yitzhar twice or once?
Once.
Horses on you.
Tell me why once.
Because he didn't finish.
Because he didn't actually finish going to the bathroom.
And he didn't wash his hands yet.
Well, knowing this, tell me something.
I think that's happened to everybody.
Knowing this, in a situation where a person knows I'm in the bathroom now, but I'll be here again in 5 minutes, is that the same as not finishing going to the bathroom? Because in my mind, I still am going to come right back.
Was it just stay in the bathroom for 5 minutes?
No, there are people who this is a lifetime of.
They're individual.
But with urination, it would be like that. You have to really fight the bladder.
You may have to go back, but it's individual.
Yeah.
What do you mean individual?
I had a Rabbi, by the way, Rabbi Teller. He had a very bad stomach problem. For years, he was dealing with him. He almost never wore his tefillin. He would wear it for a few minutes, and then that was it. Sometimes he put it back on, put it back off, take it back on, put it back off. All of Shacharit was in and out of the Beit Midrash. It's a real thing that some people have. So that's the halakha yud. Mish nitzrach l'nkavav. Somebody who needs to go to the bathroom. Mispar pa'amim, many times, betoch zman katzar, in a short amount of time. So he has frequent miles to the bathroom.
Except you don't get any points for it.
Right? But you don't have to open up a credit card either. Machmat sheyesh lo choli b'me'av. Because he has some kind of sickness in his intestines, inside of him. Or machmat, or because sheshata tufa, because he drinks some kind of medicine. Hamaviyah lidei shilshul, which causes a person to go to the bathroom. Tzarich levarech asher yatzar. He must bless asher yatzar. Achar kol pam shosat zachav. After every time he finishes and gets up. This is based off the halakha of Maran, of every drop itself is technically its own asher yatzar.
You're making people attitude. It takes more time making people say
And then there's an interesting halakha. Umikol makom, in any case, imachar she'asat tzarchav, if after he went to the bathroom, miyad hirgish, immediately he felt she'tzarich techav lachzor, that he's going to have to. He got up, went to wash his hands. Oh, I need to run right back. She'tzarich techav lachzor v'lasot tzarchav. He feels he has to run back to the bathroom. Lo yivarech asher yatzar. He does not say asher yatzar el achar she'isayem lasot tzarchav, until he's completely finished with going to the bathroom.
if you have guests, you can't do these things.
What?
If you have guests to somebody's house,
That's a problem.
It's New York, too.
Should just mention something. I don't know if it's written in any book of halakha, but there's a evil custom among people, especially other people's houses, to knock on the door if someone's in the bathroom. It's a bad thing. First off, the person inside is not allowed to be talking. You know, we said, right, it's a halakha with it. The second thing is, if a person needs to be in the bathroom, could be some person needs to be in the bathroom for a long time, and you shouldn't be knocking on someone's door to get them out. According to halakha, they're still supposed to be there. It's a derech eretz that some people, it's a refinement.
What if the door is closed, you're not sure if someone's in there, and you might open the door?
Oh, so if that's true, so then you're.
Because that happens.
You should know that there's a Gemara in Yerushalmi, I believe, and it says that in the olden days they didn't really have bathrooms. They had these like closed off walls or areas where people would go behind them and go to the bathroom.
Outhouse.
But like in the public, like on the roads, you'd find on the side it was like they built like 3 walls, kind of like a sukkah, and people would go inside and go to the
They
bathroom.
still have them in
it's for
China.
natural.
Then- yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Night soil stations.
So what they have, it was interesting. Men are not allowed to talk in the bathroom. But if a lady is in the bathroom, or two ladies in the bathroom, they must talk to each other, according to halakha. The reason so a man won't by accident come in and find ladies in a unsanua position or situation. And therefore, there's a halakha that ladies talk in the bathroom. I don't believe that halakha applies today. And ladies are not very careful. Unfortunately, ladies go to the bathroom, they put on makeup, talk on their cell phone, all kinds of things. And
There's more uses now than there used to be.
Right. Bichlal, the place is a tameh place, so the fastest time a person can spend in there, they should.
Now, if it's just air that comes out and not matter, you still say the bracha?
Very good. No, you don't. And
you still have to wash afterwards. Right?
it's an interesting question about why not. Did we answer this? Did we talk about this once? I don't remember if we did. I don't think so. That's a good question. Why not? My logic would be that even though it is a use of the nekavim, but it's not one of the two standard ways of using the nekavim.
And it would happen not only in the restroom, it would happen any time.
It's true.
So any time you're supposed to say.
Let's see the next halakha.
Interesting.
131. They have to come up with why not. I know we don't. The question is why not. Ein shiur. There is no limit. It's just repeating the Shulchan Aruch on top. Ein shiur la'atalat mayim linyan berkat asher etzar. There is no amount of urination that a person must do in order to be obligated in the blessing of asher etzar. V'afilu hotzim tipa achat, and even if one drop comes out, chayav levarech, he must bless. V'chein mi sheyesh lo sakit li'isuf hashetin. The person, let's say they're in the bath and in the hospital, and they have a bag which holds their urine.
Were you reading this?
Oh, sorry, I skipped. Very good. Oh, look, we have your question right here. Sorry. In any case, I'm sorry, I skipped. If a person passes gas, lo yivarech asher yatzar, he does not make the blessing asher yatzar. He doesn't say why a person doesn't say it, but he just brings a number of sources that say it. Durham, can you bring me a HaShamayim, please? It's going to be in the middle bookcase, the right middle one. The first volume of HaShamayim. We're going to see that. Now I bought this set after years of waiting because it's a horrible print. But the grandson of the author was refusing to let anybody redo the print. So for years, I didn't buy it until the beginning of this year. And then I bought it, and I took a trip to New York 2 weeks later, and I just put out a brand new edition of it. I was thinking, like, should I buy the other one? Should I not? Hashem clearly wanted me stuck with this one.
It makes you work hard.
No, but it's hard to see.
Until you get older.
So he says, like I thought, I just didn't want to say, that also you don't need to wash your hands afterwards. Yeah.
Even though you're in a Beta Kisa.
Person goes into the Beit Kisei to pass gas? Yeah? So then, remember we said Maran says going into the Beit Kisei requires you to wash your hands just by stepping in there. If you follow Maran on that. Is there any way we can make room for you at the table? Maybe Barry, you'll come sit next to me.
I read once in a Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, this, that standard one that's in English with all the really extreme things. That if it happens while you're praying, you have to make a special prayer for it.
Right, so it's
just busting this and that.
Right, it's a Gemara. I haven't seen anyone do it, but we have to look at it there. It's a Gemara that says that.
Oh, this is what you see.
So this is what I see. Alright, the next halakha. You bet. is the question Moshe Chaim asked. I'm not comfortable with this halakha. So if you allow me afterwards, we'll go look at the sources together. Mishiyesh l'choli, somebody who has a sickness. Hamivi lidei kach, that causes him shosei tzrachav mitoch tsar v'keivim gdolim. That when he goes to the bathroom, it causes him a lot of pain and suffering. Allah aleinu v'alechem. You should never know, but there are such things.
Even sometimes hemorrhoids are very painful.
Right. Although that, okay, right. I mean, there are a number of different ways this could be.
UTIs and bladder infections.
Af al pi ken mevarech asher yetzar. Even though it hurts, he still makes an asher yetzar. V'chen, and also mish yesh lo sakit, somebody who has a bag, li'isuf hasheten, to hold his urine,
Interesting.
and he puts in parentheses a very old Hebrew word. Someone read it for me. What does it mean? It's not a really old Hebrew word. I'm going to pronounce it. Catheter.
Catheter.
Yeah.
Oh, catheter.
Tzarich levarech berkat asher yetzar. I was once learning. I was finished. He has to make the bracha of asher yetzar. Achar kol pam sheitzun meno tipot. So after every time that drops come out of him, the paskul atzet, and they stopped coming out. Every time he notices that he went to the bathroom, he says in the Shaar I was once reading Moshe Feinstein, the Growth Moshe. I was learning some halachot and I come across this word that I cannot understand. I'm trying to read it, I'm trying to spell it, I'm trying to do the gematria of it, and nothing was working out for me. And I finally said, yo, it must be Yiddish. So I asked him if he speaks Yiddish. He looks at me, he's like, it's not a Yiddish. I finally went to ask somebody who knows Moshe's books. I said, you just can't read it. It says, Women's Liberation Movement. But do you know how you spell that in Yiddish? Vav, Vav, Ayin, Aleph, Mem, Nun, Dalet, all kinds of letters they threw in there. It took a whole line to write out this thing. How am I supposed to know what it says? I was once in Israel, I was sitting at my aunt's house, and they brought out tea, and I wanted to know which flavors the tea were. I saw the flavor, I didn't like them. There was one box, maybe I like it. Looking and looking and looking. Lipton tea, okay, I don't know what it says on it. It said on it, I want to show you. Can someone give me a pen, please? To smile a little bit. Thank you. Oh, and this tissue. The tissue. Oh, thank you.
Years ago in Brooklyn, they had Reagan bumper stickers in Yiddish. It was like Reagan. Long. Like Reagan. There's like 3 yuds and 2 or 3 ions, right?
What does it say? Somebody tell me.
Kind of
Yellow.
elderberry.
Yalad
Yellow label. I cannot understand this word. Nothing didn't work for me. Yellow label. How am I supposed to say yellow label? Why can't you just write it in Hebrew, you know? Did I take this wrong? So this is one of those ancient Hebrew words. V'chen, and also, what if a person goes to the doctor and he has to take a urine test, but just a little bit? Does he make an asher yetzar?
Yes, it's more than one drop.
I think this halakha is an obvious one, not as obvious as the one before it. Meaning, I don't know why he puts it in the same v'chein, and also, it's not similar to the one who's going to the bathroom and has pains, or the one who continuously is coming out in the catheter or urine. But he says v'chein, and also, mishu tzrach, someone who needed a tet me'at, to give a little bit, page 132, meraglayim, urine, the bdika, for a test, tzarich levarech asher yetzar. He has to make the blessing of asher yetzar.
Oh,
All right. I want to read you the sources, but I don't like them. I'm not comfortable with them. But I'll read two. 131. See the bottom left column?
130.
131, the bottom left, where it says Zayin. Yeah? This is about a person who hurts him to go to the bathroom. Besefer Shulchan Gavoa, in the book Shulchan Gavoa, Katav, he writes, Shemi sheyesh lo, somebody who has choli ha'even,
Stones.
kidney stones,
Could be also bladder
baklayot.
stones. Also more likely bladder stones.
Klayot are
Yeah, they're kidneys.
kidneys, but
That's true,
probably
it's
he's talking
kidneys.
about, but I don't know, I'm not,
Kidneys,
Like kidneys.
it could be he's referring to,
but
in his bladder there's a stone, but that's what he calls it, I don't know.
well, we'll find out.
Shemashtin b'chol rega b'kev gadol. He always goes to urinate in very immense pain. Yesh levarech b'chol pa'am v'pa'am shemashtin. He has to make an asher yatzar every time he goes to urinate. Me'at mizeir. Even a little drop, he has to make an asher yatzar. V'sheken avid uvda b'nafshe. And he says he himself had this problem and he made an asher yatzar every time. I saw a very interesting halakha. Can you give me this book, please? The block, yeah. I wrote it in my notes. Rabbi Yosef Mashash, the chief rabbi of Haifa, earlier rabbi in Morocco, was asked a very interesting question about the laws of Shabbat, and I enjoyed his answer more than the halachic side of it. I enjoyed the practical side of it. What if a person's tooth is hurting them tremendously on Shabbat? Are they allowed to go to a non-Jew and ask them to pull out the tooth for them on Shabbat?
But
Are they allowed to go to a non-Jew and ask the non-Jew to pull out the tooth for them on
I don't
Shabbat?
remember that.
What you're talking about Oneg Shabbat was very important.
Right, but it doesn't allow you to do everything in the Torah. Meaning, I'm not allowed to pull it out because that's bringing out blood, all kinds of things. But am I allowed to ask a non-Jew, like I can ask to turn on the lights or something? Can I ask immense pain? Can I ask a non-Jew to do it? And so it brings down that he holds that you can. Hefach HaMachmirim. Said I hold so opposite from all those who are strict about it. Zepashut, he said it's very simple. So the rabbi who wrote him a letter says, what about those who say you're not allowed to do it? That's something beautiful. And even though in this halakha might seem small, but in general halachot it's important. He says, what about the strict people, you ask me? He says, HaMachmirin, those who are strict, Lo ba'u l'dei nisayon. They have never been tested with this. They've never experienced a tooth that hurts so much that it has to be pulled out, so they don't have a right to tell people that they can't do it.
Interesting.
This approach is very interesting. He's saying it's easy for you to look at books and decide for people what it is they should or should not be doing.
Gotta walk a mile
But
in their shoes.
unless you're willing to walk in their shoes, or you've walked in their shoes, there are certain things that I don't have to listen to your opinion about. You've never felt what it's like to have a toothache like this. Hopefully none of us should. But
It happened to me on Shabbat.
Yeah? If halakha was followed like this logic, then let people who know what they're talking about decide these halachot, the world of halakha will look very different. You've never struggled with that before, so how could you tell people to do or not to do?
What about, then it's very tested. What about men who make halacha for women in childbirth?
This has become a big issue in the Jewish communities today.
generally,
And I don't understand the problem. Maybe you could share with me and then I'll address it. And I see people are making a big deal about it, but I don't understand it. So
No,
I would like to appreciate it.
because there's a certain amount of pain in it, and whatever procedure could be done. I mean,
We're talking about they're talking about the halachot of birth control.
Oh, birth control.
Yeah, that's what they're going crazy about.
So I wasn't.
Oh no, that's not what you're thinking about.
No,
Okay,
No.
just in general, you're saying.
Yeah.
Probably because if you ask the rebbe, she would tell you to ask the rabbi, so that's why they're deciding these halachot. But there's been a big push for I can decide my own life and da-da-da. What does he know about it?
You can go around looking for a rabbi who say yes, you do it.
What?
You can talk to several rabbis.
Several rabbis, I got the answer you want.
Right.
Shop around. So I didn't make the title when I did it.
No.
We, but about the issue that I brought up, and it's similar. First off, yes, we are deciding issues for people because there are no other qualified people in that field. I told you before how Peretz gave his sister smicha in deciding the laws of nida.
Really?
She was dealing with a crowd that didn't want to come to a man to talk to them about their issues, and he said he doesn't agree with the programs that other rabbis have because he's checked those women, he's spoken to them, and they're not holding in halachot the way they should. So they know their job like a trade. This color's okay, that's not okay, this is not. But he felt that in order for a lady to be giving rulings in this, she has to know, just like a man would know if he was getting smicha, the different opinions and the sources and the Rishonim, the Chaonim, the Gemarot, and so that's when he made his sister study, and he gave her a smacha on this. I don't know if this is public information, but he told me this himself.
But we don't have a lady rabbi that many.
What? No, I'm not talking about a lady rabbi. Just there are certain issues that maybe a lady would feel more comfortable or more tsanua to go speak with a lady about if she's qualified. The Chida says the only qualification to decide halachot is the knowledge of halachot. I mean, if you know halacha, then you're able to teach halachot. The problem is that there are many men who are rabbis who don't know halachot because the status of a rabbi has become very cheap, and the knowledge of halacha is not. Today, a rabbi needs to know, I don't know, spiritual stuff, Kabbalah. He's got to learn. He doesn't need to know halacha. And the problem is, you have rabbis that don't know the first thing about how to open up a Shulchan Aruch, which page it starts on, I don't know which chapter or something says. They don't know. So definitely, I could believe there are ladies who know these things. But in general, especially when we're being strict about something, the idea is, don't be fire and brimstone unless you know what you're being fired. Unless you know the consequence. And you'll find dafka by these things that do cause pain, especially to women. For example, the laws of agunot and such things. Our rabbis are more lenient in very illogical ways than they are anywhere else, because of the suffering that would be caused to a person. Think about the laws of a sick person on Shabbat. Which other situations do you know that we are so lenient about a biblical prohibition? And this is not just because of life or death situations. It's because of the suffering that a person goes through. Our rabbis, when it comes to, he's sick, you do this, you can eat, you can drink, Yom Kippur, in extremely illogical ways. But they do this because there's a value in under. Now, I'm sure that a rabbi will never understand what childbirth feels like. But we hope that he has some rachmanut enough, or he's seen his wife have children, that he understands what it's like. That's a good point.
I realize it's a different situation.
Right.
When you were talking about the pulling of the tooth, you were talking about a lay person pulling the tooth or a dentist?
It's a good question. I don't know. I was just talking about a non-Jew. I'm not familiar with the whole sugya, yes, no, who says yes, who says no.
Well, I mean,
why would it make a difference?
The doctor is allowed to help people in need. Can't a dentist do the same on Shabbat?
Jewish dentist.
I know very few people, even historically, who would pull their own teeth out.
No, he's saying if you go to a dentist who's Jewish. Is that what you're asking?
Right, that's what I mean.
What's he doing working on Shabbat?
No,
He's not working, but you knock on the door and say, please.
He's called, you know.
Emergency?
Yeah.
Here you're coming to an interesting question. The halachot of a sick person on Shabbat, and what constitutes dangerous enough that we violate Shabbat for them. I remember once being in shiur, and our rabbis, for example, viewed an injury to the eye as life-threatening. Even though it might not kill the person, it could kill their prospects for a normal life afterwards. And therefore they allowed Chilul Shabbat. They claimed it as the same severity as a life-threatening situation. Somebody in the class said that he had read an article that somebody died from a toothache.
Yeah, you can. You can
No.
be infected.
I don't
Yeah.
know if it's true or not. I'm not a dentist. Where Feretz heard it, he said, please, dying from a toothache. Now, it could be he just didn't know about the person who died from the toothache. I'm not saying... All I know is that in our literature, it doesn't seem that a toothache was ever viewed as a life-threatening injury.
Because you're calling it a toothache, but if you called it an infection that was causing the toothache and it was a systemic infection,
If you could tell me it was an infection,
Yeah, it could
right?
be sepsis. And,
But
If you could tell me it was an infection, and it's a life-threatening situation, then you've reached the status where a Jewish doctor can save a person from a life-threatening situation. Here, we're not talking about a life-threatening situation. We're talking about an extremely painful situation,
yeah.
which is not life-threatening. It's a good point what you brought up. But in that situation, of course, a Jewish doctor could do it. You should know, Bichlal, doctors working on Shabbat. I didn't learn these halachot from Arav Peretz. I didn't.
yeah, we never know what will be the continuation. It's
Right.
like appendix. You also haven't, you know.
The laws of a doctor on Shabbat, I don't have a Kabbalah from my rabbi, but when I look into these halachot, I get very scared. Because blanket heterim of everything's allowed because you're a doctor, you can drive to work, come back to work. There are heterim that were given to drive to a hospital, but to the point where it becomes routine that I'm on call and I just drive in for my shift and that.
They
This-
go to the hospital, they can have many other doctors together.
No, but this whole idea is we've made, because being a doctor is like a proud Jewish, physician, and there are so many religious Jewish doctors, we've allowed blanket things that are not so automatically allowed. And you'd have to, when our Chazal were saying a doctor can do this, a doctor can do that, you're talking about a traditional doctor that worked for himself. He was an expert in his field. He decided the rules of what he does and doesn't do. He doesn't have to necessarily file his reports in on Shabbat. He doesn't have to be taking notes on his iPad on Shabbat. He doesn't have to be turning on lights and taking care of the other patient because they pressed the button. And he's just there to deal with what he life-threatening must deal with on Shabbat. And to apply those to 21st century medicine and hospitals and systems and procedures without a qualified team of chachamim to sit down and look and say, this is yes, this is no, this is not. People are taking a big risk. It's a big risk. Now, obviously, the risk of saving people's lives is much better. I'm not criticizing doctors. What I'm saying is I'm uncomfortable with this whole blanket heterim that are going on for doctors. To the point where I just had someone call me up.
It depends on each situation.
Everything, right. But if I'm required by my non-Jewish insurance company to deal with X amount of patients, they don't care if I keep Shabbat or don't keep Shabbat. And so you have, you went to work anyways for the guy who was life-threatening, and then so you could do everything else. Not necessarily is that true. It could be it's true. It could be there's a posek who says that. But at home, you wouldn't heat up soup on your platter. So all of a sudden, to type on your iPad, but you wouldn't let your kid text on Shabbat. So meaning, we have to be
It has to be very exact.
very exacting in these things. I once met a doctor. He was here in my house. He was a Talmid Chacham. He was a Torah scholar. And he knew every issue of Shabbat. Is it biblical? Is it rabbinic? Is it this? Is it that? And he knew the procedures that he was doing. Are they life? Are they not? And his iPad and which programs you could put on that are using more battery and less battery. All kinds of things that he was very knowledgeable of. And I was very impressed. He was a person who clearly took years of his life, not just to study what he needed to study, but things that would make him a HaShamayim doctor. And I don't know. I got a phone call this year. A doctor called me up and said, he spoke to the rabbi, and the rabbi told him that he's allowed to drive to the hospital on Shabbat, he's allowed to drive back also. Now, there is such a heter. There were rabbis who said, let's say an ambulance driver, you work for Hatzalah, or Magen David Adom, or something like that, and they call you up and it's an ambulance, you don't say, oh, sorry, I'm praying Musaf now. If you go to New York, you'll see, or Israel, you'll see people in shul on Shabbat with, dressed for Shabbat with walkie-talkies on. They're paramedics. That's what they do. They're allowed to do this in Shabbat. In Israel, they even have better things. There's special walkie-talkies, special ambulances, special things that don't violate Shabbat in a biblical way. But let's assume we're not in Israel for a moment. So these guys go, let's say they're in Manhattan, and they drive out to Brooklyn, whatever I'm saying. Or they drive 100 blocks in Manhattan, and now they're stuck there for Shabbat. So they're going to walk back. So there's a takana that some of our rabbis made that we allow the doctor to return, because if he could not return, he would not go in the first place. And it would cause a situation where people would endanger other people's lives. Because, listen, I'm in my little Shabbat meal. My wife's going to get mad if I go take that call and I don't come back till Motzei Shabbat. What if it's Friday night? What if it's... all kinds of questions. So this doctor called me up and said, I asked the rabbi, and the rabbi told me that I'm allowed to drive back from my shift. The question is, I work in Los Angeles, and if I'm already driving back from my shift to my house, am I allowed to drive back? I have to be Sunday morning in San Diego. Am I allowed to just drive back from LA to San Diego, where I'm going to be sleeping the night?
A bit of a leniency there.
So I told him, listen, I'm going to tell you the honest truth. This first off, I'm not a posek in these areas, so I wouldn't have answered your question in the first place. The idea sounds funny to me, but could be that I'm missing some loophole that I didn't read. I said, but I would suggest calling the first rabbi that gave you that leniency and hearing his answer, because that's his thing to deal with you. But that was a very scary wake-up call to me, that if that's the logical conclusion that people are coming to, then that doctor wasn't educated enough in the halachot of Shabbat and in medicine to know that there could be a difference between driving the 5 minutes to his house and the 2 hours to San Diego in
Of course,
traffic.
if he has enough gas to do it.
Right. He doesn't have to fill up gas, he doesn't have to...
Or plug in his electric.
That's a good question if he's low on gas.
Getting more details.
Hybrid cars.
There's a song that Ashkenazim sing on Shabbat, a beautiful piyut. I was once wanting to give a class on medieval Ashkenazi literature, piyutim. Beautiful song. Someone who ever takes out a Yom Kippur Machzor, or you'll see the very special piyutim. There's one song, I don't remember the name, maybe you remember, maybe Baruch El Elyon. It says in there, "V'im yatzah chovat hayom ashrei lo." And if he fulfilled his obligation of Shabbat, he's very praiseworthy. The idea is that it's almost impossible, unless you really know the laws of Shabbat. Everything that you might do or not do could be a problem or a question. Or I shared with the ladies today in the morning. I have a parent whenever he teaches the laws of Shabbat. So there are details, how many cups of hot water do you have to put it in before you can put the tea bag in, or is sugar like instant coffee, is instant coffee like instant cocoa, is instant cocoa like instant soup, and I don't know, if I can make coffee on Shabbat, can I make my instant soup on Shabbat? All kinds of questions that are coming up, and every minute detail in there. What about, I'm allowed to cook after cooking, right? So something that's fully cooked, I can heat it up again on Shabbat. The question is, am I allowed to cook after I bake something? It says, Ein bishul achar bishul. You can cook after you cook something, right? But are you allowed to cook after you bake something? Meaning, can you cook something that has already been baked?
Like a loaf of bread?
Yeah, it's a big argument among our rabbis. Can you fry a piece of bread? Let's say bread is fully baked, loaf of bread. You put it in the oven. It's already baked, so that would be on Shabbat, according to most opinions, not mine, but according to most opinions, it would be okay. But can I take that bread and now fry in a frying pan or something else?
But you have to heat up oil to do that. But you are cooking the oil.
Right, imagine the oil was hot. What I'm trying to share, I'll give you a better example. That's right, because you'd have to violate a different issue. That's right. Am I allowed to dip my bread into soup on Shabbat? Because the bread was baked and the soup is cooking it in water. Now, okay, you're assuming your soup is in a bowl of that's already kli sheni or kli shlishi. But what if I have like French bread soup and I'm pouring from the pot directly into the bowl made out of bread?
Croutons?
Very good. I was getting there. What about croutons? Croutons are baked or fried. Depends what kind of croutons. And now I'm putting them in soup. Even though Maran clearly says it might be okay. Right? So it seems like Maran would allow such a thing. Halav Peretz, when I asked him, he does not put croutons in his soup on Shabbat. I don't either, because of that. Even though there are many poskim who say it's okay.
Is it hot enough even?
Right, it's also a question. Is it hot enough, even with Kli Rishon, Kli Sheni? But here the question is as follows. So when you deal with these details, and it's like Hashem really cares if I put in the croutons on the soup. It's just a beautiful story how Peretz shared. Peretz said there was once a chassid who came to the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh. I gave a class today in the morning about tolerance of Jews who are less observant, more observant. And I said that tolerance cannot be learned from people, that can only be learned from leaders. If there's a leader of a movement who's tolerant of other approaches, his students will also be tolerant of those approaches. But it's very hard to have someone who's passionate about their truth and to accept that there is another truth that's not mine. Unless the leader taught them that there are two truths, but this is our truth. I hope you understand what I'm saying. I mean, you can be all open-minded, but the people around you are not, because your leader, your rabbi, your shul, your yeshiva, whatever it is, says there is no other way except for ours. That's a
They don't even let you feel like there's no. This is Judaism.
This is it. This is right. We're not a certain kind of Judaism. We are Judaism.
We got you here, so we're not. This is Judaism.
So when I was by Rav Peretz, I was very lucky that his style of teaching was always to teach as many of the opinions as he possibly could. We have our derech. We'll always choose our derech, but you don't have to be an ignoramus as to the other approaches. And what that made for us was always, it's legitimate to talk about another group or another opinion and their opinions, even though we have a different one, because it's not a threat to us. We believe that they're also right. It's not for us, not for the world that we see. But that was something we could only have learned from him, not from ourselves. So Rav Peretz shared the story, and notice it's a Sephardic rabbi who studied in Panovich, who's sharing Baal Shem Tov stories in the middle of the law of Shabbat. And he said that some chassid came to the Baal Shem Tov and said, Rabbi, I want to learn the true secret of Shabbat. The Baal Shem Tov said, okay, I have a place, I'm going to send you. There you will discover the secret of Shabbat. And he sends him, and forgive me, but most Hasidic stories are to put down the mitnagdim. So he sends him to the house of a mitnaged, misnaged, an opponent of the Hasidic movement. Somebody once asked me what a misnaged was. I said somebody who the Hasidim don't like. That's generally my opinion of what is a misnaged. Not everybody was an opponent just because they weren't Hasidish, but okay. So he he goes to the house of a mitnaged, and they go to shul together. And Friday night, the guy takes his guests and he runs home. Doesn't walk nicely, doesn't say Shabbat, he runs home. Why? It says Shulchan Aruch, immediately after you pray, you Kadesh, you have to say Kiddush. So he runs home, and he breaks down the front door, doesn't say hi to his wife, not this kid, grabs the cup of Kiddush, skips Shalom Aleichem, skips Eish, and starts saying Kiddush. He drinks Kiddush, and he drinks half the cup, he already is drunk, and he's sending it around the table, because it's a big cup, he just makes Kiddush in a washing cup, maybe it's enough wine that you need to fulfill all the opinions, and he's sitting there at the table, and his wife brings out the soup, and one of the guests takes his challah and dips it in the soup, and the guy goes, no, you can't do that. He takes the bread, he throws it in the garbage, and the soup, he pours it down the drain. And then comes time for the salad, and his wife is squeezing a lemon to the salad, and one of the seeds come out, and so his wife took out one of the seeds. Oh, borer, you switch it, and he takes the salad, and he throws it out the window, and they're sitting there the whole Shabbat, and finally he says, you know what, we need some spirituality at the Shabbat table. So he starts saying a Dvar Torah. He's in the middle of saying a Dvar Torah. He's stroking his beard. And he realized that if he takes his hand out of his beard, he's going to pull out a hair on Shabbat. So he spends the rest of Shabbat with his hand inside of his beard. And you can imagine this guy was in a terrifying place on Shabbat. Motzei Shabbat, he runs back to Mezhebush. He comes to the Baal Shem Tov. Says, Rebbe, says, that's where you sent me to discover the secret of Shabbat. This guy's crazy. So she's like, oh, so now you discovered that kind of Shabbat. I can send you to a real Shabbat. And he sent him to a Shabbat by one of his Hasidim. And they were in Beit Knesset, and they danced a little bit. And on the way home, the man stopped at all the neighbors to say Shabbat Shalom, to give them blessings. They went to his house, he opened up the door, he said hello to his wife, they came to the table, he blessed all of his children, he said Shalom Aleichem. Eshet Chayil, he was thinking about his wife, they said Kiddush, they handed out little cups to everybody. They they had the soup, and everybody did whatever they wanted with their soup, and the salad, and he didn't throw it out the window, and he said a Dvar Torah, and he stroked his beard, and Rav Peretz said, do you for a moment believe that the Chassid didn't care about Shabbat? That he wasn't keeping the laws of Shabbat? Do you for a moment believe that the Mitnaged wasn't keeping Shabbat? So the Baal Shem Tov was trying to show there are two ways to look at the Torah. You can look at all the details and get stuck on the details. And when you get stuck on the details, it's like trying to read a book like this. You'll see one letter, but you will not see anything else on the page. Also, if you want to see the bigger picture and you hold the book too far away, you won't be able to see the words either. The beauty is to be able to do both. To see everything, to know the details, but to never forget the greater picture. Shabbat is a day of happiness, it's a day of oneg, it's a day of menucha, it's a day of rest, it's a day of all kinds of things. And of course there are details. We have to know about pulling out beards on Shabbat and soup croutons and but if that's what Shabbat becomes to a person, and all they can think about are the details, they totally miss Shabbat. And if somebody sees the whole picture and they sing and dance on Shabbat, but the way they do that is by having a Friday night rock and roll Shabbat, so they also miss the details that were important. The beauty is to know how to do both. How to keep the details, be aware of the details, but never lose the bigger picture. And B'ezrat Hashem, that's our hope. That when we learn here, we know how to see things both ways. See the details, and to also know the bigger picture. And never should one outrule the other one, because both. It says Zachor, you should remember Shabbat, Vishamor, and you should observe the Shabbat. Both. You have to do both. You can't just do one, because one Shabbat candle wouldn't be enough. Your wife would get angry at you. You have to have at least 2. And if some of your wives have 7 or 13 or 21 or whatever they're lighting, that's also good. But the details should never be clouded by the bigger picture, and the bigger picture should never be lost to the details. And B'ezrat Hashem, we'll continue tomorrow at 8:30 with Hamaspik Lovdei Hashem. If you didn't order a book yet, now's the time to do it. And if not, if it comes a little bit later, so we'll be doing Halakha Barad just like we did tonight. Everyone should have a beautiful evening. B'ezrat Hashem.